furniture as well as in his detective fiction, shows himself to be the first physiognomist of the domestic interior. The criminals in early detective novels are neither gentlemen nor apaches, but private citizens of the middle class. 3. V. Baudelaire, or the streets of Paris. Everything becomes an allegory for me. Baudelaire. Hyacinthe 39. Baudelaire's genius, which is nourished on melancholy, is an allegorical genius. For the first time, with Baudelaire, Paris becomes the subject of lyric poetry. This poetry is no hymn to the homeland, rather, the gaze of the allegorist, as it falls on the city, is the gaze of the alienated man. It is the gaze of the flaneur, whose way of life still conceals behind a mitigating nimbus the coming desolation of the big city dweller. The flaneur still stands on the threshold of the metropolis as of the middle class, neither has him in its power yet, in neither is he at home. He seeks refuge in the crowd. Early contributions to a physiognomics of the crowd are found in Engels and Poe. 40. The crowd is the veil through which the familiar city beckons to the flaneur as phantasmagoria in our landscape, in our room. Both become elements of the department store, which makes use of flânery itself to sell goods. The department store is the last promenade for the flaneur. In the flaneur, the intelligentsia sets foot in the marketplace ostensi. Paris, the capital 0f the 19th century. 105. Bly to look around, but in truth to find a buyer, in this intermediate stage, in which it still has patrons but is already beginning to familiarize itself with the market, it appears as the boheme. To the uncertainty of its economic position corresponds the uncertainty of its political function. The latter is manifest most clearly in the professional conspirators, who all belong to the boheme. Their initial field of activity is the army, later it becomes the petty bourgeoisie, occasionally the proletariat. Nevertheless, this group views the true leaders of the proletariat as its adversary. The Communist Manifesto brings their political existence to an end. Baudelaire's poetry draws its strength from the rebellious pathos of this group. He sides with the asocial. He realizes his only sexual communion with a whore. These are the way that leads into Avernus Virgil. The Aeneid 41. It is the unique provision of Baudelaire's poetry that the image of woman and the image of death intermingle in a third, that of Paris. The Paris of his poems is a sunken city, and more submarine than subterranean. The chthonic elements of the city, its topographic formations, the old abandoned bed of the Seine have evidently found in him a mold. Decisive for Baudelaire in the death-fraught idol of the city, however, is a social, a modern substrate. The modern is a principal accent of his poetry. As spleen, it fractures the ideal, spleen et idea. 42. But precisely modernity is always citing primal history. Here, this occurs through the ambiguity peculiar to the social relations and products of this epoch art to the marketplace. They rally round the banner of art bore, art. 45. From this watchword derives the conception of the total work of art, the Gesamtkunst with question mark, which would seal art off from the developments of technology. The solemn rite with which it is celebrated is the pendant to the distraction that transfigures the commodity, both abstract from the social existence of human beings. Baudelaire succumbs to the rage for Wagner. 46. Vi. Osman, or the barricades. I venerate the beautiful, the good, and all things great, beautiful nature, on which great art rests. How it enchants the ear and charms the ear. I love spring in blossom, women and roses. Baron Osman. Confession. The unlined of evokes. 47. The flowery realm of decorations, the charm of landscape, of architecture, and all the effect of scenery rests solely on the law of perspective. Franz Boli, Theodal Catechismus, Munich. Page 74. Osman's ideal in situ planning consisted of long perspectives down broad straight thoroughfares. Such an ideal corresponds to the 10